Check out my book, Millennial and Gen Z Guide to Marriage: Love in the Age of Lies, Deception, and Mistrust. Peer to peer, I will journey with you in the pitfalls, love, laughter, and even in the pains that come with marriage. Despite the bad PR, I believe our generations shouldn't give up on love just yet. This book will make you look at millennial and Gen Z marriage, life, and love with a refreshing new lens. This is our time. Compared to baby boomers and Gen Xers, millennials and Gen Z are getting married less, buying homes later, and suffering poverty more. Whether you've got a bit of hope or you need some hope desperately, here are all the tips and tricks taken from my own experience and my own millennial marriage. You'll grow in love and happiness when you apply them across marriage, other relationships, your career, health, and every aspect of your life. Millennial and Gen Z Guide to Marriage: Love in the Age of Lies, Deception, and Mistrust is available now on Amazon. I'm so happy you're on this journey with me. Let's get started. Order your copy today. Hello, you guys. Welcome to this edition of It's the Real Najwa. I'm so happy you're here. If you are new here, I would love for you, before we get started, to do me a favor. Support this channel. Support Black-owned media. I'm moving my hands a lot. Click the like and subscribe button. Hit the bell. Send us a super chat. Super thanks. My husband and I, we run this whole shindig in production. We would love to have you support our cause. This pushes this out into the world. You can also join Premium. You can also donate to this channel through paypal.me/realnajwa. You can find all of this information in the description on my profile. We would love to have you join on Patreon, patreon.com/itstherealnajwa. With that, let's get started, guys. We got a whole lot to talk about today. I first want to start with this really interesting article that I found about, you guys know we talk about the narcissist a lot on this channel, how baby boomers actually portray more signs and signals of narcissism than millennials do. I would love for you guys to read my new book about millennials and Gen Z and marriage, life, and love. Gives all sorts of tips and tricks for my wacky own millennial life in there. It's been a rich life in this short or long, however you look at it, 32 years of life that I've been on this planet. But it's often us millennials and Gen Zers who get tagged with those labels of narcissistic, bratty, selfish, but it's actually baby boomers who portray, scientifically speaking, if we want to get on that, who portray more of those signs. So I wanted to read through that article with you guys. It was really, really interesting with me. I wanted to talk to you guys about Kanye West's new video with Northwest. I think she is so adorable. We're going to review some of the Kdrama that I've been watching recently, talk a little bit about life since COVID. We're going to talk about Jennifer Lopez's new, I guess you would call it an extended music video on Prime. I really loved it, but I saw a lot of people giving her heat about this. She's a fellow millennial like me, so maybe I have a little bit of a biases there. We're going to talk about Ukraine. Have we forgotten about Ukraine, guys? Have we forgotten about Ukraine? This is something that I feel like I think about every single day, the wars raging on in Ukraine and Israel. So we definitely need to talk about that. We're going to talk about the, I guess you would call it, film that the Obamas either, I guess they were backing it, called Leave the World Behind, that was launched on Netflix. Got a lot of backlash from Fox News over something that was so minuscule to this really enriching plot. My husband and I, we sat and watched that movie, and it really was amazing. We were really taken aback by it. So I wanted to talk to you guys about that a little bit. We're going to talk about Prince Harry and Meghan Markle and their warm welcome in Jamaica. Were they booed? Were they booed? Did they receive a warm reception, or were they booed? According to the derangers out there, that's the word that we give for people who hate on Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. They were booed and people hated them. They hated them when they arrived in Canada. They hated them when they arrived in Jamaica. But from what I saw, it really was the exact opposite. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk a little bit about Britney Spears and Sam Asghari's dysfunctional divorce. I know there's a whole bunch of Britney heads out there who really just, you know, I was looking at, not to get into this too soon, but I was looking at Sebastian Soto, who I follow a lot. I love his his content, and he was talking a bit about how we really just need to support Britney, and I'm with that. I'm one of those old fans of Britney's. I'm talking about the Now CDs, the big posters in my room, you know, 10, 9, 10, 11-year-old version of me. You know, I absolutely love Britney. I love Destiny Childs and all those other, you know, girl power group bands that were, you know, marketed to us millennials when we were young. But I love her, but I can also say that I'm worried about her, you know, and I think that if those Britney heads really came up out of their feelings for a little bit, they might be worried about her too. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Selena Gomez and Benny Blanco. Is he dirty? Is he dirty? You know, I don't know why, but I've been seeing online in social media spaces, you just find the weirdest stuff that people talk about. They really just want to attack people. You know, I don't know what that inclination is, but people are talking about that he's dirty, and he's almost like talking about him like he's a waste man, and like, you know, he's bringing Selena Gomez's I don't even know, how would you describe it, like her caliber down or something like that. So we're going to talk about that. Is Benny Blanco dirty? Why is social media so, they're like fourth graders, you know, fourth graders can be the most evil people in the world. That's how social media is. So we said we're going to talk about Jennifer Lopez's, her extended music video, and a little bit about the trolls. 3 people, okay, 3 people in I guess you wouldn't call it Congress, because some of these people are in the state legislature. 3 people in the legislature, will say, that are just, I mean, fire, hot fire, burning it. We're going to talk about Jasmine Crockett. We're going to talk about Justin Jones and Justin Pearson. They are really, really, I'm so proud of them. We're going to talk about them a little bit. We're going to talk about Marjorie Taylor Greene, anti-vaxxer crusader who incurred $100,000 in fees for not wearing her mask on the Congress floor. So she incurred over 1/2 of her annual salary, holding on to that flag. So we're going to talk about that. And very last, Kim K and Odell Beckham Jr. Is it a thing? Is it not a thing? We're going to discuss that a little bit. So let's get into it. Let's start with Northwest in this video, guys. I mean, I'm one person who, let's just say it this way. Northwest, Miss North for me. I don't know what it is. Maybe it is just the strong, opinionated woman of color, thing. But maybe it's something that reminds me of myself at that age. But she gets labeled with this tag of like a snotty little brat or whatever. But I think she is a little young lady who really knows her mind, who knows herself. And I have to say, I just love that. And I see, let's go ahead and be real here. Kanye West and Kim Kardashian, they are famous, they're rich, but that doesn't mean that they're not human. And you can look at Kanye West's struggles with mental health. You can look at Kim Kardashian. We've seen her whole life struggles. We've seen her failed marriages. We've seen her issues with body image stuff. We've seen her thing when she had the psoriasis, health scares. We saw her troubled pregnancies. So I feel like the Kardashians get a lot of hate. Kanye West is getting a lot of hate right now. And maybe he's misguided. I don't deny that. Look at my video way back when about Kanye West and Candace Owens. But I do think that Little Miss Northwest is very unique in the fact that, yes, she is born into this privilege. She's born into this fame. She's won the genetic lottery. She's absolutely beautiful, even though she's so young. She is already looking so much like her mom and her dad. She definitely got the genetic lottery ticket. But there's also pain there. There's struggle. There's that human experience, going through a parent's divorce. And I absolutely would attribute some of that behavior that people have talked about her being, entitled and bratty or whatever, to the things that she's gone through. As a child of divorce, I've been through that adversity. So that's all just to say that none of us on this planet are, absolutely excluded from adversity. So anyway, we got this article here from People. It says Northwest appears in Dad Kanye West's new video for talking / once again. North West isn't just appearing on her dad's new track, she's also on the video. And this article is by Angela Andoloro. I try so hard with these names. The 10-year-old lends her vocals on Kanye West and Ty Dolla $ign's Talking Again. That was another thing. I loved that Ty Dolla $ign and his daughter was in this video. And this is something that, you know, I've talked about this candidly on other videos on this channel. Child advocacy and advocating for our young people is something that I am going to continue to rally throughout my whole life, that we all need to get on the bandwagon, because this is our future. And there's this, you know, seeing Kanye West and North is already so just like, you know, just blowing you out of the water. But Ty Dolla $ign and his daughter almost like pushes you over the edge on that emotional thing, because he has this lyric where he talks about her growing up fast, you know, and basically watching the time pass by. And it hits so deep, it strikes so deeply, seeing all the adversities going on with young people, with children, with teenagers in America right now, across the world, across the West. You wouldn't be surprised, because there's so many things going on in the world right now. It's going to take strong parents to produce strong children and young adults who are going to turn into the next leaders of the world. So I thought that this was wonderful. And North, I mean, talk about a strong mind. If you go and look at the coverage on the making of this video, she actually planned out a lot of this. Now, she had big budgets in mind before she said this, but before they actually produced the video. But, you know, to just see her mind mapping, the brainstorming, it was absolutely amazing. Now, I just want to pull up the lyrics real quick and talk to you guys about this. Listen to this. Don't try to test me. It's gonna get messy. It's gonna get messy. Just bless me. Bless me. It's your bestie, Miss Westie. Just trying to bless me. Just bless me. Just bless me. Guys, how absolutely, I'm so proud of this girl. Like, I don't even know what to do. I think that it's invigorating to see children, to see young adults who embrace God. That right there is already so beautiful for me as a Christian. But also just to see her mind, the way her mind works, you know, to see that she thinks through things critically, you know, and I absolutely loved it. I would love to know what you guys think about that. Let me know in the comments. So next, let's talk about Britney Spears and Sam Asghari's messy divorce. Now, I do not have a great opinion on this in terms of some of the Britney heads that I've been calling them lately. Some of these people really hate Sam Asghari on behalf of Britney, but she never asked for that, you know. And as someone, I feel like, who's got a vantage point view of this, you know, I really like Britney, but I also really like Sam. When I look at the comments of people kind of really attacking Sam, saying that he used Britney, saying that, you know, he just used her for his modeling and acting career. You know, he posted a picture of Brad Pitt some months back, and people were saying, oh, how dare you take a picture with Brad Pitt? You know Britney loves Brad Pitt, and you know that she would love to be there. Britney has never said anything like this stuff. Now, she speaks in her Instagram posts, and I'm going to talk about that in a little bit too. There's cause for concern. I love Britney. I know many of you guys love Britney too, but there's cause for concern. Like, I was just thinking about it. We're going to talk about Jennifer Lopez's extended music video that she released on Amazon Prime, right? That right there is the type of project that I would love to see Britney Spears do. I would love to see her channel all of her energy into something like that. Something that is coordinated, something that is really thought through, something that is put together, for a lack of better terms. But her dancing every single day, a lot of times the same moves in the same spot every single day, it causes concern. It's cause for concern. People are gonna they're gonna look at that and they're really gonna be concerned. For me, you know, like I said, vantage point view here. This is someone, I really like Britney, but I also am not afraid to say her behavior is concerning, you know, to just be playing this out repetitively. If she was doing some project like that, you know, putting her money into this amazing extended music video, or a musical story, or a story of her dance and music love, a life of her love, The book was a great thing, for example. But to just be dancing every single day, same moves, same spinning, is just bizarre. Okay, so I have this article here from Blast. Why is it from Blast? Is it from Yahoo Entertainment? I guess it's a collab. It says, Why Britney Spears and Sam Asghari Haven't Finalized Their Divorce Yet, by Kristen Myers. Now, let me just go ahead and say, I feel like Sam, I mean, when I look at his Instagram, I see tons of support. I see tons of support, and I see tons of people attacking him on behalf of Britney. It's a similar sort of feeling that I get when I see people attacking Prince Harry and Meghan Markle on behalf of William and Kate, on behalf of Charles and Camilla. It just reads as over fanning, you know, like, if you're going to support Britney, just support Britney. You don't have to send Sam hate, you know. So I think it speaks to the psychological place, the mental, spiritual place that Britney is in, but also where her fans are at, you know. And I don't see Sam Asghari's people flowing over to Britney's channel. I see some of them from time to time, a few, but not at the same scale. I don't see them flowing over to Britney's channel to send her hate on behalf of Sam. Of course, we know neither of these people have asked their fans to send hate, you know. Anyway, I think that plays into this divorce. I think that if Britney was in a better place, that this really could have turned out a different way. That's just me. So it says, singer Britney Spears and actor Sam Asghari still have not officially ended their marriage, even though the special ops lioness actor filed for divorce last August. Pause there. There's a lot of people that think that Sam is just using Britney for money, and I can understand that. I really can. It's like this divorce is being prolonged, but at the same time, I do think that when you go through something like that, as someone, and I speak about this a little bit in my book, but I dated someone who faked his own suicide, right? He sent me this email as if he was his mother, and he had bipolar disorder, and this points to how disturbed this individual was. And the whole time that we were together, it was just a roller coaster of him disparaging me, calling me names, coming back, saying all this sweet stuff. That's a long story short to say I've dated someone with some mental health issues going on. And if I were married to a person and it would have been the same circumstances, I couldn't say that I wouldn't want to be like, hey, I think I need a little bit of, not payment, but I do feel like I need a bit of dispersion or monetization or what's the word that I'm looking for? Remuneration for the time and energy that I put in that didn't turn out the way that I thought it should turn out, you know? So that's a really long story. But also when you're married, you do share, and that's not to denote to a man or a woman, a man paying for everything, a woman paying for everything, but you do become one person. Two people become one. So it says the former couple met on the set of her Slumber Party music video in 2016 and started dating soon after. He popped the question in September 2021, months before her controversial conservatorship ended in November 2021. They tied the knot less than a year later. Essentially, they're just basically saying the money and the legal stuff is what's holding this divorce up. It also speaks on Kevin Federline and how similar things happened with him. I think that the common trait with Kevin Federline and Sam Asghari is Britney. You know, I really wish that she was in a stronger place. I look at what Jennifer Lopez did with that music video, and she channeled all of it. She channeled all of the failed marriages, the failed relationships, all of it into this. I would love to see Britney do something like that through her art, through her dance, instead of worrying us with seeing what she's doing on her social media activity. Now, really quickly, I wanted to talk about Selena Gomez and Benny Blanco. There is this I guess this sentiment going around the internet that Benny Blanco is dirty and that he is like a waste man and that he is not on the same level as Selena and that he's dialing her level down. Let me just call this out for what it is really clearly. Like, it's clearly sizeism. It's just nastiness. It's just catty, nasty, haterish type behavior. You see this woman, petite woman, Selena Gomez, very pretty. She was a child star. She was a Disney actress. And you see this guy, maybe who is not conventionally attractive. And all of a sudden, people are saying, oh, he looks like he doesn't bathe. He looks like he does. This is the type of stuff that I see people say about him online. And then on top of that, the issue with this lobster with Paris Hilton and Benny Blanco. Let me know what you guys thought about that, because I saw that and I don't understand what all the fuss was. I saw online people were like, oh, PETA's going to be all after them, etc., etc. Guys, it's a lobster. You eat them. You eat them. It's a lobster. You know, a half-dying lobster. I mean, it's just like, come on. Do you guys not realize at some point we all used to wipe our booties with pieces of leaves? You know, I find people being really, really shallow. I'm really happy that it seems like finally, like you guys have seen all that Selena's gone through. Justin, The Weeknd, need I say more? And finally she's found someone who seems like they really, really love her for her. And people are disparaging his looks. People are saying that he looks like he's dirty. It's just like, grow a spine, you know, grow a spine and stop being so shallow. You know, it's terrible. Now, Jennifer Lopez, This Is Me Now. Guys, I loved it so much. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. So basically you have Jennifer Lopez and she's basically telling her life story. In a way, you know, it's very condensed down, of course, but she spent $20 million of her own money, which a lot of people are talking about, oh, she shouldn't have spent $20 million. By the way, my Sussex people, Kaiser from Celebrity, she trashed this thing. And I love Kaiser, but I also love Jennifer Lopez. I've always loved J-Lo. So I was really sad to see people trashing it. People online were saying the music was horrible, it wasn't that good, whatever. She shouldn't have wasted her money on this, you know. But first of all, $20 million. This is as someone who's worked in advertising on campaigns that cost millions, right? $20 million is actually not a lot of money. I know that sounds crazy, right? But in terms of music videos, one music video might actually cost $3 million. One music video might cost $5 million. So $20 million, and it's basically an hour-long, almost musical. It's almost like an album inside of a long, extended music video. It's actually not that much. Secondly, I'm going to talk about Shania Twain now. Shania Twain has written such amazing music since, what, the 80s, the 90s, and it's always been other people writing for her. And I think it was back in mid-2010s or something like that, she released Now, her album Now. That is my favorite album from Shania Twain. And I love all of it. From This Moment, no, that's Faith Hill. Man, I Feel Like a Woman, all the old stuff, right? But now, she wrote it herself, she sung it herself, she did a lot of the, you know, scoring and all that stuff, came up with the melodies, all that type stuff. And it's amazing. It's like, it's mature and it's rich and it's womanhood and it's like, it's real. It's amazing. And she did that all herself. That's how I felt about this, This Is Me Now. So we start off where she talks about Alita and tarot. I love that J-Lo brings some of her background into this. She takes it to some things from her Puerto Rican background with the story of Alita and tarot, which is like, you know, a mythology from old, ancient sort of love story, you know, almost like Romeo and Juliet, right? And she weaves that into there. There's this broken flower factory type thing. I won't give too many spoilers, but you'll watch it and you'll understand how it all weaves together. She talks about her life back in the Bronx, you know, and how she doesn't say this in so many words, but we see that that wasn't where she was meant to grow, you know, and we see that clash between where she came from and who she is and how she came into her artistry. We see these failed marriages. In a way, I think she almost alludes to Sean John P. Diddy Combs in there as well. There's a black guy in there and she didn't marry a black guy. So I also think that that was a wink and a nod to him. We see Ben Affleck for 2 seconds. He's not really in here because I think she really pointedly tries to make it like this is not about him. But for 2 seconds, he is in makeup and prosthetics, and he's like a Bible Belt old Southern preacher. It's hilarious. I actually really want to watch it with my husband because I think he'll like it. And then you've got people like Sofia Vergara, Jane Fonda. They're playing the zodiac signs like the gods up in the sky looking at her down with these 3 marriages saying, oh my God, why does she torture herself like this? There's 12 of them, of course. I'm going to go through those because I have an article about that with you. And she's going through these marriages. She's going through all this heartache and grief. Fat Joe is her therapist inside of that, right? For those of you who remember Fat Joe and Big Pun, you're really going to like that. Fat Joe's wife calling up, why do you always talking to people? There were so many good things. There was the East Coast stuff in there. There's the Spanish, Latina type stuff in there. There is the failed marriages stuff in there. There is, even the jokes about her character. As a fellow Leo, I talked about that. She has a Leo personality. Some of that is in there. This zodiac sign stuff is in there. She makes fun of herself. And the music and the dance. I mean, I don't understand how anybody could not have liked it. It just had all of the goodness of like early 2000s, mid 2010s J-Lo that like actual fans of her just love. But listen to this. So this is from Screen Rant. Every Zodiac Council member and their meanings in This Is Me Now Explained. Pause there. I also want to talk about J-Lo talking to her childhood self. You guys probably saw that if you watched it. I thought that was beautiful. It was iconic. It doesn't have to be something absolutely new and, unique. And I mean, all of us have had a childhood. And if you know something about something, getting right with your childhood self is really what provides growth. I talk about that in my book. I loved the scene of her holding her childhood self, comforting her. It made me think of my childhood self. I'm going to flash up a picture of myself when I was around that age or when I was younger around that age. Just going back and looking at those pictures even just does something to look at your childhood self. So it really was a journey of growth, and I absolutely loved it. So this article was from Abigail Stevens, and it explains every Zodiac member, right? So Jane Fonda is Sagittarius. Sagittarius is adventurous and always hungry for knowledge. Hilarious. Neil deGrasse Tyson was Taurus. My brother's a Taurus. I love that. Taurus enjoys relaxing and finer things. And when he would go on and on about love and the universe, everybody like Post Malone and all that stuff would be like, stop. Yes, Post Malone is also a zodiac sign. Keke Palmer is Scorpio. Amazing, because you guys know that Scorpio is an honorary fire sign. Scorpio is intense and has psychic abilities. At one point she has this candle and she's doing like this prayer, and it is hilarious. Leo, my sign, is Post Malone. I thought that was awesome. Leo is confident, enthusiastic, and loyal to friends. Cancer, that was Sofia Vergara. Sometimes I chew my hair. Iconic, classic. Cancer is emotional and defensive. Libra was Trevor Noah from The Daily Show, right? Really, really good. Libra is diplomatic and values balance. My mom is a Libra. That was awesome. Virgo was Kim Petras. Now, I know that she is a vlogger, but I don't know too much about her. Virgo is systematic and a perfectionist. 3 was Gemini. This was Jennifer Lewis. Oh my God, Jennifer Lewis. That was Keke Palmer, Jennifer Lewis, Post Malone, Neil Tyson deGrasse. Those were like, and Sofia Vergara. Those were like, yes for me. Gemini is curious and intellectual. 2 was Jay Shetty. He was Aries, and Aries is passionate and courageous. And the last one was Sadhguru. I hope I'm saying that right. I don't know his name, but I know his face because I see him in my YouTube queue all the time. I've watched his videos. He's the Indian man, and he's got this really long white beard. He wears a turban. Anyway, I know all of you know him because you've probably watched his meditation videos. But he played Pisces. Pisces is intuitive and familiar with the mystic world. But you have this thing where they're watching her from, the gods are watching her from above, and they're saying, they're commenting on what she's doing, what she's going through. It reminded me a lot of Sita Sings the Blues. That's really good. It really, really touched a place for me. So there was recently a film released on Netflix called Leave the World Behind. This was spearheaded by the Obamas, and it is amazing. All this stuff that we just talked about the negativity online, the narcissism that is stemmed up in our society, the misogyny, the racism, the sexism, the xenophobia, the wars that are raging on because some people were just too greedy to let stuff go. That is all confronted in this film, you know, and it's confronted in a way that is just so poetic. It's so off the cuff. It's subtle. It's thought-provoking. My husband and I sat down and watched it. I mean, this is a 2-hour movie, but we wanted it to be 3 hours. We wanted it to be longer because it was just that good. And with all of this right here, you know, giving us wisdom, you know, in a Chaucer's Canterbury Tales way of saying it, but not really saying it. Giving us wisdom on Israel, on Ukraine, on Trump, on white supremacists, on the neo-Nazis, on all of these things, on these old white men who want to take away the ability for women to have, you know, in vitro fertilization or to have an abortion. This film basically touches us on all of these culture questions without really saying it. I mean, Chaucer's Canterbury Tales all the way. And with all of that, with this strong statement, I mean, this is a strong statement of hope, of humanity, of brotherhood, of fraternity, of love, of sisterhood. With all of that, the Fox News people focused on one thing. And it's just, it's always over their head, you know, and this is not just Fox News. I see people in everyday life who get caught up on black people talking about terms of race, you know, as if Europeans and white people didn't make this a thing with eugenics and phrenology. It's absolutely bizarre, you know, and we live in these constraints today because, I mean, we would love to not be talking about race all the time, but there's clearly disparity within wealth, within education, within leadership, within government, because of racism, you know. And so this movie really, really talks about this candidly. And it talks about unconscious biases in a way that just shows you that even racists are human. Even racists, you know, maybe we all have a little bit of racist streaks in us. Maybe we all have those gremlin selves like we talked about earlier. Maybe we all do things from time to time that just aren't nice, you know. Okay, well, admit it and move on from it, you know. So guys, long story short, it was just bizarre. Like, it was just bizarre. Fox News got fixated on this one line, you know, on this one line, just right over the head, you know. And this happens a lot. This happens all the time where people try to have a conversation about racism, about sexism, about homophobia, and some people are just not there. They're not there to have this conversation. This whole movie is a metaphor, you know. It's a metaphor. It's an artistic oof. And it's talking about some really deep stuff. And out of all of this stuff, Fox News got fixated on one line. And so they are that epitome of that person who just, or that entity, that group, whatever, that is just not there. You're trying to have a conversation about XYZ and they're still on ABC, okay? So this is an article from MSNBC. Conservatives fixate on one line and leave the world behind and miss the point. This is by Robin Autry. So, I'm going to skip to the one line that they get fixated on. It says, in a film that has a running time of 2 hours and 21 minutes and revolves around a mysterious disaster hitting New York City, some critics have latched onto a single line. Ruth Scott, played by, hopefully I'm pronouncing this right, Myha'la, I think that's it, Myha'la Herrold, makes to her father, George Scott, played by, again, hopefully I'm pronouncing this right, Mahershala Ali, as a pandemonium breaks out in New York City. And before I say the line that's said or whatever, Julia Roberts is the Karen in this movie, you know, and I don't think that Karens are necessarily horrible people. I think a lot of Karens are just confused. Like, they just are confused. They, like, you're talking to them about pronouns and inclusion and what the symbolism, the original meaning of woke was, and about culture and about, nuanced stuff. And they just are like not there. And so that doesn't mean that this is a bad person. It just means like more conversation is needed. That's it. That's all that it is. Julia Roberts is that person, and eventually by the end of the movie she becomes a lovable character. Ethan Hawke is like the male Karen, he's kind of spineless by the beginning of the movie, but at the end you see them come together. The black people have their faults too, the young girl, she's always calling her dad out, and he basically is always trying to kind of hide stuff and be strong and protect her from stuff. And she's calling him out. And the young black lady in here can be kind of abrasive, Like they are all basically avatars of those stereotypes almost. But that is what's truthful in it. And it's supposed to teach you something. It's supposed to help you walk away from it with something of value, with a nugget of wisdom. With all that being said, right over the Karen in the movie's head, right over Julia Roberts in the movie's head, and right also over Fox News' head, apparently. This is the line that they get fixated on. With all of the just, that good wisdom, nuggets of truth, wisdom, reflection, makes you think, pensive, thought-provoking that I just explained. Out of 2 hours of all of that, they got fixated on this one line. The line was, if the world falls apart, trust should not be doled out easily, especially to white people. That's the one line that Fox News got caught up on. Like, let me try not to laugh, but it's like, do they not understand the police brutality that led to things like Ahmaud Arbery, George Floyd, Trayvon Martin? Do they not understand that? Do they not understand Jim Crow? Do they not understand the transatlantic slave trade? Do they not understand even today where, if you come into work one day and you're not smiling, automatically you're labeled as an angry black person? Do they not understand that? Is it like a secret that a lot of black people don't trust white people? Should it be a bad thing or make them villains because of something they're doing because they've developed it as a protective mechanism, and rightly so? It's like, anyway, let me just tell you what the article ends with saying. It says, at a certain point, one of the youngest characters in the film happens upon an abandoned house that could serve as a bunker and save them all if they can overcome their distrust of one another to find their way to it. This right here says everything. If everybody can overcome, and this is on all sides, right? If we can all overcome our distrust of one another, we could make it through. That's far from certain, but it's possible. And it's the possibility of our working together, of us finding our way to each other when needed, that threatens the fear-based message of the far right. The Obamas are experts at their own brand or inclusive populism premised on radical hope and going high in the face of bullies, guns, and intentional chaos. Conservatives are fixated on trashing this film because they know the hopefulness presented by Barack and Michelle Obama is a rejection of the cynicism they promote. Whew, that's strong. That's strong right there. Let's talk about this for 2 seconds, because although I find that to be extremely strong, I'm not sure that that's the whole story, and it comes back to what I was just saying a moment ago about stuff going over people's heads. And I might not have the popular opinion, I often don't, but I don't believe that you should be negotiating with terrorists. I don't believe that black people should put themselves on the end of a boot of a white supremacist or a neo-Nazi or a KKK member. This is not what I'm saying at all. I'm not trying to promote some kumbaya dance, right? But I do think that racism is in and of itself misguided. It's like a misguided truth. It's like a trauma, like I saw this video once where they compared racism and narcissistic personality disorder. And it really, really blew my mind, because in a way I feel like racism can be a lack of mental acuity, a lack of mental health. And it can be traced back to childhood, just like most of issues that you go through, whether you got issues with depression, anxiety, fear based trauma, PTS. You know, I feel like a lot of that stuff can be traced back to things, trauma that you might have experienced in early development, you know. And I feel like racism is the exact same thing. So I don't necessarily look at every bigoted Ken or Karen out there as like the Antichrist. I look at them as misguided, you know. And so these people on Fox News, take that and just multiply it to the nth extreme. But I do think we're coming into a time where people are trying to find that humanity in all of these conservatives who have just like gone off on the deep end, and even the far left. You know, I see some far left people who basically somehow whip right around to far right. You know, it's just weird. I saw this video, and it was documenting this man who left MAGA and how he's trying to basically shepherd other people out of it because he thinks it's a cult. And he said something really interesting on this podcast. He basically was like, and I'm sorry, I can't remember the name, but he was basically like, right now America needs to work on reconciling these MAGA people with their families, you know. And how powerful is that? You know, it's like these people have probably alienated themselves so much from their families, their neighbors, like probably every person, entity, community outside of the conservatives, quote unquote, GOP community. And I think that's true. And I think it's true for the far left as well. I think that there are some people they've stopped to look at nuance, and they've started to look at things in black and white, and it's probably caused a lot of turbulence within their community. So I think that's the way in. You know, I think the way in is honestly compassion. You know, I think it was Obama who said, like, it's my duty to protect your rights even if you hate me. I think, and I'm loosely quoting, but it's something like that. It's like, even if you might hate me, you know, we still got to put this stuff on the table. You can't change history. So I thought that it was really interesting. The film was incredible. I would recommend for anyone to watch it. Leave the World Behind. It's on Netflix. It is quite long, but it's very thought-provoking. It really will make you think. Julia Roberts is, of course, just as amazing as she was 20, 30 years ago. The whole cast is really just like a blowout cast. Check it out. Moving on, we wanted to talk about Prince Harry. Speaking on his dad's cancer. Now, we talked about this on the last edition a little bit. For those of you guys who don't know, Prince Harry is a British prince. He stepped down. He married a mixed race American black woman, and they received a whole bunch of lashbacks. She, in her own respects, was an actress already revered to a certain extent, and you know, she experienced bouts with mental health. She experienced all this trollery, this abuse while she was living in Britain when she got engaged to this royal family, and a lot of it was wrapped up in racism. It still is there. You know, if you just Google Meghan Markle's name, you'll just see all this smear campaign and absolute terrible nastiness. But anyway, recently King Charles was diagnosed with cancer, and you guys know that King Charles was basically in line for the throne for such a long time. His mother, Queen Elizabeth II, was, I think, the longest reign, if not one of the longest reign in British history. So there was a lot leading up to that, you can imagine, and now he's been diagnosed with prostate cancer. When there was this falling out, when Meghan Markle was having her troubles with the royal family, and she asked for help. She asked for help because she was experiencing mental health consequences of all of this smearing and racism and backlash that she was receiving, unrightfully, unjustly so, right? They refused it because, you know, they've got this pomp and prestige about them and they don't want to touch on those things. And so a lot of people who support Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, and that's non-exclusive with people who support Prince William and, you know, Princess Kate, for example. I don't understand why that has to be one way or the other. It's like you support Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, the Sussexes, or you support, you know, the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, Prince William and Princess Kate, you know, and I just don't, I think that's absolutely asinine and silly. But that basically just gives you some background that there's some family drama here. It's just like what we were just talking about with, you know, Kim Kardashian and not to compare them to the royals, but just to show with Kim Kardashian and Kanye West and North, you know, you've got a child here who was a child of divorce, who was a child of, you know, coming through some struggles, some early life adversities. And that's not just, restricted to those of us who were middle class and lower middle class, you know, or working class. This also happens with, you know, royalty, with celebrities, and that's just to say that they're not excluded. And so there's some contention there. There's some tenseness there between, you know, Prince Harry and his family back in Britain, the royals back in Britain, and, you know, trying to merge these two families that he's formed. He's got these two, you know, appearing white, yes, but mixed race kids. And so they've received different treatment. And so the royal family has pretty much made it very clear that they just don't want Meghan around. And maybe they take it from the stance of they don't want scandal, but it reads as racism. It reads as, you know, not being accepting and coming into these new times that we exist in. And so Prince Harry essentially chose his family. He essentially said, hey, I'm stepping down. They both stepped down as senior royals. They renounced their duties. They would still follow on their humanitarian causes, but they were like, hey, we're choosing our family. So they moved to California, and their two kids, they're in California now. And the family, they're in California. Still traveling, of course, still doing all of their things. And when this diagnosis hit, Prince Harry apparently went straight there. And so I'm going to talk to you a bit about this very short but very impactful interview that Prince Harry recently gave. Now, I saw this interview on Entertainment Tonight, but I'm not completely sure if it was Entertainment Tonight who originally released it. It might have been Good Morning America. I'm not completely sure. But I saw this coverage just yesterday, I think, on Entertainment Tonight. And the first question was like, how did this go down? You know, and he was like, my dad called me and gave me the diagnosis, and I got on a plane the next day. You know, and that right there speaks to just how, you know, straightforward Prince Harry is. You know, he's got a heart of gold. He's really got his mother, Princess Diana, in him. But this interview was really short. I'm talking like 30 seconds, at least the coverage that I saw. But there was so much said in that. That was like the first question. How did this go down? And he's like, my dad told me about the diagnosis, and the next day I was on a plane, you know. Meghan didn't go with him. And I think Meghan has really put down her stance of like, I'm not dealing with that, you know, until basically I know that my heart is safe, you know, my heart is safe, that I know that I'm being listened to, that I'm being heard, that I'm being seen. And I think that Prince Harry has really supported that this whole way. The next question was basically like, so how are you guys going to handle that emotionally? Do you think that's going to be a meeting of the hearts, you know? And the first thing that Prince Harry basically said was like, I'm not going to go into the details of my family issues with you, right? I love that he stands on his ground, on, you know, his right to have his privacy. They have been, you know, and when I say they, I mean the toxic tabloid media. They have been inundating and intrusive in his life, his entire life. And Meghan, that spilled over into her life consequentially. And so he's like, listen, I'm not going to go into details with you. And then the last question, and of course, I'm not quoting this. This is not quote by quote. I'm basically just summarizing this. The last question on this little coverage that I saw was, you know, sometimes when there's sickness, illness in the family, when there's a loss in the family, or when there's these big emotional moments, these big events that happens in families, it can bring families closer together. So he basically said, do you think that this will bring you all closer? Of course, with the insight that all of this has happened with the Sussexes. And, you know, Prince Harry basically says yes. He thinks that this will bring them together in the face of all that they've been through. Now, I wanted to read you this real quick, just to show you this split screen, you know, of Prince Harry, and how he talks candidly. And there's not all this fluff, there's not all this sensationalism, you know, it's just real. Compared with the tabloid media, you know, the Daily Fails. That's what we call the Daily Mail. Okay, right? So this was from Celebichi. This is from February the 6th, 2024. It says, male, okay, colon, male, colon. Duchess Meghan might be cautiously welcomed back to the UK. Okay? Now, they basically go through this whole spiel, and if you want, you can go and you can look this up, right? You can look this article up. I just want to go to that little part. Okay? So this is basically pulled from that little piece, and it's always from some unknown royal insider, right? How can we really trust that? So they say they're desperate for Meghan, Archie and Lilibet. Archie and Lilibet are Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's children, for those of you who don't know, to come to the UK. The palace has confirmed that Charles told each of his sons about his diagnosis personally. Okay, that's corroborated from what Prince Harry said. Harry announced that he is flying home to London immediately. Now note that this is before the interview that we just talked about. But I really want you to really just pay attention to tone here, though. Will his children soon join him, as the king and queen would surely hope? One senses that even Meghan might be cautiously welcomed. Charles did, after all, walk her down the aisle. I will leave it there, guys. Let me know what you think of this. You know, last word here on this before we move on. I think that, you know, when we talk about this article that I found on baby boomers actually being more narcissistic than millennials, and this is all in love, you know, this is not hate-filled in any way, because we know what real hate looks like. In 2024, with social media, we know what real hate looks like. This is not in hate. But I think for our older geriatric loved ones, and even for some young ones, but oftentimes in 2024, for our older geriatric loved ones, it's very, very hard to admit, I was wrong, okay? I was wrong. And that's where I'm going to leave it. That's my thoughts on that, but I would love to know what you guys think. Next, we're going to talk about just that. That data actually shows that our geriatric and loved older baby boomers, moms, dad, uncles, you know, bosses, even some of our clergy, you know, our gurus, our therapists, our baby boomers are actually more narcissistic than millennials and Gen Zers. And that is quite frustrating, because as a millennial, you know, read my book, you'll hear more about this. We often get, you know, labeled with that tag, right? We get labeled with that tag of entitled and lazy and all of that stuff, but nope. So this is an article from Scary Mommy labeled Surprising No One. Recent research shows baby boomers are a bunch of narcissists. This is by Elizabeth Broadbent, and this was originally published on September 20th, 2021. Now, I'm going to go ahead and tell you that I'm not going to read this whole article to you guys. Please look it up for yourself. It was really enlightening for me, and it releases you from the gaslighting that some older individuals will often put us millennials, Gen Zers, and even Gen Xers through. The thing is it's a lot of colorful wording in this article. I will make sure that I bleep those all out, you know, so that YouTube doesn't demonetize me. But this is a great article. I can't read it all for the sake of time, but I really would love for you guys to go and check it out. So it starts, in a study that most of us could have written without any research whatsoever, scientists in the Journal of Psychology and Aging found that boomers are more sensitive than millennials and display more traits traditionally associated with narcissism. I'm going to ask y'all out there, you know, other than baby boomers, y'all are going to scoff at this. But millennials, Gen Zers, Gen Xers, did anybody have to tell you this? You can't tell baby boomers a damn thing. You know, they are so into them damn selves. Like they are how do they say it in the rap videos? Like, I love me. They say it's us, but no, they love them some them. But did you have to tell us? Let me just ask you. Were you already there or weren't you there? I'm pretty sure you were already there. Anyway, so the article goes on. It should come as no shock whatsoever that a generation which brought us mass-scale multi-level marketing, Donald Trump and Applebee's, would act in a more hypersensitive fashion than one which overwhelmingly supports gay marriage, marijuana legalization, and a path to citizenship for undocumented workers. That last part would definitely be us younger folks. The mass multi-level marketing, Donald Trump, Applebee's, that would definitely be the baby boomer generation. The article goes on to say, Debbie and Carl, your precious snowflakes are rolling their eyes. I know y'all are rolling your eyes. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay to get a therapist after the age of 60. I will say that. Okay, I'm done. I'm not trying to, this is all in love. It's not in hate. You know that same motion we make when you ask us to fix your Roku so you can watch endless seasons of the incredible Dr. Pol? No, I lied. When us ask us to fix your Roku, we hang up and cry silent tears of frustration and despair. Do you guys not love this article? It's vindication. Vindication. Everything in this article. Click on articles about millennials in the workplace. I'll wait. You call us spoiled, lazy, and entitled. Y'all, this is so crazy. That could literally be lifted from my book. Quite literally. I'm trying to figure out if I plagiarized this woman or if she plagiarized me right now, because that right there goes and shows you, Lord have mercy. It's vindication. It's there. It's there. It goes on, well, we might sound entitled when we caterwaul about how boomers f***ed up our environment, refuse to fix it, truth, and keep farting out more carbon. Give us our rainforest back, Susan. And how exactly are we entitled? Because we believe our neurodivergent, differently sexed, differently oriented, differently gendered, and differently abled friends deserve a novel thing called equal protection? We are so entitled to overwhelmingly support comprehensive LGBT non-discrimination policies. Boomers will retire somewhere between age 66 and 67. Meanwhile, we will work until we die, probably in a gig economy you made necessary with your corporate takeovers. Y'all, is it not telling the truth? Is it not telling the truth? I know some of y'all are cranky about this. Y'all are probably boomers. But I know everybody else, vindication. Okay, anyway. Call that spoiled, Larry. We will never see the Social Security dollars you are snarfing up from a program you refuse to bail out. We are so spoiled we live in our parents' basements because we can't afford a house. Newsflash, we don't want to live in a basement. This is not being spoiled. This is being really fucking poor and drowning in generational debt. As I've said in my book, at this point, millennials, we should be further. We should have been married. We should have been buying our first houses. We should have multiple cars. We should have much more equity. But no, baby boomers not ready to let go. So, getting to the bulk of this here, a closer look at narcissism and hypersensitivity. A study encompassed 747 participants, the largest cohort ever studied for narcissistic traits. It found that while there's a drop of narcissism around age 40, older generations start out with a higher degree of narcissism than younger ones. Boomers specifically scored high in the defensiveness and hypersensitivity category. I'll stop there. Is that not vindication, y'all? I know who it's vindication for. I know who it's vindication for, and I know who just broke a pencil, you know, teeth just grinding, you know. But anyway, I want to know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments. Did this resonate with you at all? So, moving on. I wanted to talk to you guys real quick about life since COVID. You know, let's make this a heart-to-heart moment. Let's make this a moment to be real with one another, to talk about what's on our mind, a moment to breathe. You know, I will invite you right now, if you feel tense, you know, just take a and let it out. I want to talk to you guys a little bit about life since COVID, because I feel like it's come and gone, but at the same time, the effects are still here lingering, and things have changed. You know, before COVID, things within society in the Western world were definitely tense, you know, in all the world, really, we could say, and money was tight. Possibly money was tight. But since, you know, you look and there just seems like in many spaces there's no hope. You know, hope is gone. And right now people are just little balls of anger, anxiety, frustration, you know, and it doesn't help that when you look on TV, okay, the economy is doing well, it's bouncing back. You'll hear that, right? But it doesn't help when you aren't feeling that. Maybe you're feeling that, you know, even in your wallet. Maybe you are, but maybe you're not feeling that emotionally. Because the truth is that globally, we went through a trauma. So I want to hear what you guys think about some of these things that people have said online. I'm going to read you a few comments from social media that people have said about life being more negative since the pandemic. So someone says, I just see the most disgusting comments on social media that I don't even want to repeat. People exposing other people's personal business, making hateful comments, etc. I know social media has always been somewhat like this, but it seems like it's gotten worse. And when I just talked about that, I got a flash of Aaron Carter. You guys know I really liked Aaron Carter, but the last few years of his life, I was really sad to see his cognitive decline, you know, and he was just posting lives every day. He died in such a horrible public manner. And when I think back on it, that was really just right post-COVID that all of that went down. And his increase of his social media usage before he did die, and just sort of the erratic behavior, the just, you know, beating down his family, trashing his family online for millions of people to see. All of that happened during COVID. It was when we were sheltered in place. Now, me personally, you know, and that's a famous person, but you guys might resonate with that, because those same things were happening in our normal everyday circles, in normal people's lives. And me, you know, I am the introverted extrovert, you know. I think that was Kendrick Lamar who said that. But I love my alone time. I've always been like that. Najwa, my name means secret talk with God. That's always been something that has energized me. It energizes me to give other people a big old bright smile and my energy and pass that to them. But then I love also to retreat into my own spaces, my own oasis, to write, to create, to paint, you know, to read. And that right there invigorates me. But I know a lot of people to be alone, you know, and of course I don't always spend my time alone. I also spend my time with my friends and my family. But I know for a lot of people, A, they don't have friends and family to reach out to, or they don't feel close to them. And B, they retreat to be alone, not from a place of invigoration or sort of just like that manifesto I'm here moment, but it's more so out of isolation and fear and anger and anxiety. And so I think we all saw that from all the way on the spectrum. If we're looking at a spectrum, all the way from celebrities all the way down to just normal everyday people, we saw that emphasized, you know, during the pandemic. Someone else says, because people's social lives have changed, decreased massively. People going outside less and getting less dopamine from the sun will make them constantly angry, negative at someone doing well. Now that right there is very strong. Before I continue with this comment, I feel that very deeply. One thing that was definitely highlighted when I when I graduated university, actually when I was younger, to go in a field like advertising, there were a lot of people who really didn't like that. They absolutely wanted me to go into a field that was much more understated, you know, and that wasn't for me, that was for them. When I started this channel, when I started writing, there were a lot of people who just really seemed to not want me to do well. When I got married to my soulmate, maybe in ways subconscious and conscious, there were people who tried to quite literally sabotage my marriage. That right there, that sentiment, that all humans can have that like nastiness in them. You know, maybe it's something deeper. Sometimes it's you just having a bad day, you cut somebody off in traffic. We all have that ability to be our gremlin selves, as I call in my book. But during the pandemic, it seemed like that really got heightened, right? And people didn't want to see other people doing well. So this person goes on and says they are replacing the dopamine one would get from positive experiences like going outside with negative dopamine that they get from social media. So hating on things, people online. So I just want you guys to and then breathe it in for 3 seconds and out for 3. Just real quick. I know we didn't come on here to breathe, but it's okay. And it's okay if you do things sometimes in your gremlin self. If you throw a side-eyed comment here, or you cut someone off in traffic there, or you troll someone's Facebook page there. It's okay. You can come back from that. Just remember that you are an individual. There's a beautiful, God-blessed human being inside of you. And try to be there for others. Try to be there for yourself, practice self-love, and also be there for others, pandemic or not. And don't be afraid to talk about how COVID has affected you. It really affected the whole world. Talk to your friends and family about it. For some of us, for example, I know at least 2 or 3 people in my life died either from COVID or from complications from COVID. So that also doesn't even account for the human losses that we lost in there. You can be like my mom and some of my Asian friends, child. You can go ahead and build you a, how do you call it? An altar, you know, put pictures of your lost loved ones, you know, put plants there, whatever it is. Put food if you are inclined, sort of like the Japanese or the Korean or the Chinese. But it could also just be meditation. It could be yoga. It could be going outside, like they said, to take a run. Do those things to get back to that vitamin D. You know, sometimes you really do need that sun, and to cultivate yourself. But I wanted to talk about that a little bit. Guys, let me know in the comments if you're comfortable about how COVID has affected you, how you've overcome some of those adversities that we gained. I don't know when to say gained, but that we took from COVID. And let me know how you're doing. I would love to hear it. So love is there. The love is there. So guys, moving on. I just wanted to know, do you guys think that we're forgetting about Ukraine? I'm just wondering, are we forgetting about Ukraine? You know, if there is so much misinformation out there, there's so much misinformation out there. There's so much propaganda, you know, and I have a feeling it's coming directly out of Russia. I have a feeling it's coming directly out of China. I have a feeling that it's for a reason. I have a feeling that North Korea, China, and Russia really in the 2024 United States presidential election really need, you know, they need Donald Trump to be elected. That's why this weight is so heavy, this misinformation, propaganda, hatred online. That's why it's so heavy. That's why it's so extreme right now, I think, because these world leaders, these corrupt world leaders, have interest and money and power vested in one another. And so it's like they really need this. And that's why the justice systems and people standing up for democracy right now is so important. But in the midst of all of this, you know, Donald Trump's gold sneakers and you know, the Super Bowl and the Olympics and you know, the Pope in Portugal, you know, which I love the Pope. That really has nothing to do with this, but just the buzzings about Selena Gomez and this and that and who's got this new Gucci bag and who got into beef on Facebook and and all of the stuffs, all of the toxicity online. The Pope's not toxicity, but just how we don't have a break from this 24-hour news cycle. Every single second of every day, there's a new thing out there that just is really being pushed onto us. By the way, I hope you guys are having a great Lent season. For those Catholics out there like me, I actually thought about that, and when I mentioned the Pope, I remembered that I forgot to say that. I hope you guys are having a good Lent season. For those out there who are Catholic like me, all the distraction, misinformation, the hatred online, I think that it is very much planned that way to make us forget about Ukraine. Now, how many people have died in Israel? Say 25,000, something like that. That's already horrendous, especially horrendous to think about. 90% of that has been Palestinians. It's not been Hamas. It's not been the terrorist group that Netanyahu has been targeting, but it's actually more so just innocent children and women. It's horrid. But to think about Ukraine, they've lost almost 300,000 people. And on top of that, the silly Republicans are starting all these culture wars to distract that they won't give up the money. The 0.3% odd or something of America's GDP, 0.03% or something like that of our GDP to help Ukraine, when our European allies have invested so much more. They won't even give that. They would rather let Putin destroy democracy and be the next Hitler than to give to Ukraine, and that comes back to us. It gives back to the American economy. It also increases our allyship. It increases these strong ties of democracy in the Western world. It's diplomacy. They're not even thinking about that. So I have this article from Politico. It's why the West is losing Ukraine. It says U.S. Republicans blocking aid, European right-wingers pushing to abandon Kiev, ultra-cautious leaders. What is the West's real strategy? I'm sort of disappointed that Europe is not speaking up more about Donald Trump and Putin. They're of the same ilk. Donald Trump, Putin, Netanyahu, they're of the same ilk. And during World War II, the West sort of sidestepped and just sort of crab walked its way into this maniacal man destroying half the planet, destroying people, destroying legacies. We just sort of not we, but they sort of sidestepped into that because they were like, I just don't want to get involved, right? I just want to protect myself. And every day when I don't see people speaking up about the atrocities happening in Ukraine and Israel also now, and also with racism, that's racism, sexism, misogyny. When I don't see people talking about this, and all they're talking about is just what this celebrity did here, or, oh, I just got this promotion with my job, oh, I just did that, or I went here with my family, or I got this Instagrammable moment. Okay, yeah, those things matter too, but are we about to sidestep ourselves into a Hitler situation? Some of the European nations have been speaking up about this, There was also this big convention that the NATO countries had in Munich, I believe it was. And so they spoke about that there, and they're being more outright, finally, I've been saying this for like 2-3 years now, but they're being more forthright with go ahead and saying the war in Ukraine needs to end. Donald Trump needs to go. America is too important in the grand scheme of all this to let it just roll on through. Europe is too important in the grand scheme of this to just let it roll on through. And I'm like, okay, great, but you guys should have been saying that a long time ago. And this article is essentially saying that. This article is saying it falls on us. It's the West, not just the United States, not just the EU. The West's responsibility to protect democracy. And I find it absolutely ridiculous that we have to be discussing this in this day and age. But there's always going to be some lashback to democracy, to progress, That's why this is happening right now, is because the world is moving forward. The world is moving forward. Things are becoming more equal. Things are becoming more respectful for people from minority groups. And there are always going to be these bad faith players who hate that, just listen to this last bit of the article. It's a bit long, and so you might not want to read the whole thing, but I do recommend that you do read it because it's really good. But even if you just want to hear this last piece. In a speech at the Munich conference, Scholes gave a hint of how the West is quietly redefining its war aims in Ukraine. Rather than say, Ukraine will win or Russia must leave Ukraine. So this is his quote, "There will be no dictated peace. Ukraine will not accept this, and neither will we," Reuters quoted Scholes as having said. "This is certainly softer than Ukraine cannot lose," said Chow. And essentially, it means it means to cement the status quo. The West hasn't given up on Ukraine, but its overriding focus on risk management reveals a desire to wind down the conflict and make a deal with Putin, if possible, sooner rather than later. The question looming over the conflict is whether that approach will stave off disaster or invite something worse to come. This is where we have to put down our boundaries, and I hope that the world leaders are listening to us everyday people, and us everyday people need to be putting down our boundaries more, because we are the ones really who forge change. They are representatives, so never think that you don't have power. Your voice is your power, and you have to make it clear amongst your friends, families, the circles, the people who you love, and in your communities that democracy must forge forward in the West, in America, in Europe, And so, no, don't negotiate with a terrorist. Putin should not be allowed to push forward with any more of this stuff. If he wants to participate in the world market, do it fairly. Don't steal it. Don't steal it. And I feel like that is a precedence that just has to be set down by the United States and Europe, and we don't want to go into a world war. Either donate now, not donate, but give money to the Ukraine efforts now for the U.S., or just watch us just slide on into World War III. That's really where we're at, and I don't understand why people don't understand that. I want to know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments. So next, I want to talk to you a bit about Prince Harry and Meghan Markle in Jamaica. Now, this is where I'm a little bit confused, because when I looked on the spaces where I go to learn about Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, maybe it's a little biased, but the spaces that I go into are very praiseworthy of the couple. They actually like the couple, right? I actually like the couple. So, of course, these people talk about the positive things that they're doing. They talk about their humanitarianism. They talk about their philanthropy. They talk about them being amazing parents, like talented people. But there's this whole other dark universe that exists with these people who absolutely hate Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's guts. And sometimes, I do have to roll into those spaces. Not necessarily to talk, not necessarily to say anything, but just to observe, right? Just to be like a little feeder ears, to just see what's going on over there. Because sometimes in these spaces, I feel like they're saying things that aren't true, or not like blatant. There are some spaces where it's just blatantly like not true. It's that those are like the tabloid Royal Daily Mail, blah 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 blah. It's like the really really trashy Royal Daily Mails, channels, all that stuff. But there are also some who are kind of like misguided, and they're not so extreme. And then there are some that are just plain flat out wrong, right? They're just wrong. Like they really just want to trash Harry and Meghan, and they actively know that they're doing it, right? So I stumbled on this one channel, and this lady was talking about how Prince Harry and Meghan Markle were booed in Canada, and they were booed in Jamaica. Y'all, I listened to this video, and there's one clip, I think this was when they were in Jamaica, and this lady, or whatever person was doing this, tried to make it seem like someone said F you, tried to pull out something in the background that seemed like they were saying that to Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. There's huge crowds around, and this is in a city. It's in like a city place. Like I'm pretty sure there are just random passerbyers in this place. But even if it was someone who said that at them, the rest of the people are enthralled with them. They love them. When you look at Canada, when the people, I heard 2 people boo. 2, okay? And in this video, there had to be dozens of people within the frame. If we were to zoom out, I'm pretty sure there were probably at least 100 people within this, you know, city square where we're looking at. And 2 people booed. One of them, when I listened to the kind of intonation of their voice, it kind of just seemed like they were just, you know, I'm not even going to say the word, but they were just slacking off, like they were just kind of being silly. You know how some people do things to just be like devil's advocate, to be that person who's different, that they even laughed after they said it. After they booed, they even kind of like laughed. And the other person, it sounded like a authentic boo. But everybody else in this video, out of this dozens, 100 people that are in this space, all cheering for Harry and Meghan. But you look at this like coverage of it and they're like, oh my God, they got booed and it was horrible, it was terrible. So anyway, so I have this article here. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle make a surprise visit to Jamaica. This is from ITN. It says Prince Harry and Meghan Markle made a surprise appearance in Jamaica on Tuesday evening. This is from January 24, 2024. Sorry. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex attended the premiere of the biopic Bob Marley, One Love. I do want to see that film. The film was produced by Brad Pitt's company Plan B Entertainment and is due to be released in the U.S. on Valentine's Day. So, like, first of all, the movie, I feel like they were there but to support their friend. I know they're good friends with Ziggy Marley. The Prime Minister actually spoke on Prince Harry and Meghan Markle being there, and she had great things to say. She didn't say that they were snobby. She didn't say that people hated them. She didn't say that they walked in all entitled. None of that. I feel like this is just a made-up narrative by people who really just hate that this really, really nice-looking, super wealthy, very affluent royal member of a royal family married a mixed-race Black American woman. Tell me what you think in the comments, but again, I keep coming back to that. I just don't see any other way that pans out. It could be unconscious biases, but again, those exist, and that's okay. It just opens it up for further conversation. But when you're intentionally, you know, sending hate to people, that's when it gets into territory that to me just, it doesn't seem very humane. It doesn't seem very, you know, it doesn't seem very fair. I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about this K-drama show. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I'm really, really into K-drama. I feel like, and some of the Korean people out there, you guys are probably going to laugh at the way I pronounce these names. You're going to laugh at the way I pronounce these places and things like that. But I have gotten enthralled in it. There was a thread online. I was looking at this thread online about, you know, Black people. It was asking Black Americans specifically, what's something from your childhood that you remember that doesn't exist now? You know, in a time gone past. What's something that you remember from your childhood? And one person said, I kid you not, I remember that stack of Asian or Chinese action movies, action DVDs in every Black home. And I looked at that comment and I literally couldn't do anything but just bust out and laugh, because literally growing up in the 90s and 2000s, every Black home had that stack of like Jet Li, Jackie Chan type movies, right? I know that you check back, you go into history, and you know there's some colonialism that happened between the Chinese, the Mongol rule, the Imperial China rule, and you know the Korean or Goryeo, Joseon dynasties. I told y'all gonna make fun of my pronunciations and stuff. But, you know, the cultures do coincide in different places, you know, and from my understanding, you can actually see that from shows, for instance, like My Sassy Girl, like Empress Key. I talked to you guys about Empress Key a while ago. I want to talk to you a little bit about this show that recently is like, ugh, I just love it so much. Even my husband is like getting into it. So it's called 100 Days My Prince. So I have this article here from Hive Mindness Media, and this is actually a review. It says, like the dramas I mentioned before, 100 Days My Prince, also known as 100 Day Husband, has a lot of the same roles. She's talking about in comparison to Moon Embracing Sun, Love in the Moonlight, and The King's Affection. I've also seen all of those too. There is a queen, the king's second wife, who has a son by the king and who is keen for that son to become crown prince, so she schemes behind the scenes. There's a crown prince, Li Yul, but he is cold and resents his father for what he did, blaming his deaths on both his mother, the king's first wife, and his true love. More about her later. I won't go too much into the synopsis here. I'll just explain to you. Basically, there's this prince. He was born into a rich family, but as he was young, of course, it's always, I'm going to give you spoiler alerts, but as always, it's one of the evil ministers. And this evil minister, I won't give exacts, but he's been corrupting this prince's life his whole life since he was a young child, and he has blood on his hands. Long story short, oh my God, I can't speak. This young prince, when he was a young prince, was in love with this noble girl. And he basically lost contact with her his whole life up until he's, 28 or something like that. And, but since he went through so much when he was a kid, he's grown up. When he was a kid, he was cool, but he was also kind of like snotty. But as an adult, he's grown up, and he just makes everybody's life hell. He's always talking about how he's an uneasy child. He is just a snob. He's a brat, and he's a douchebag, for lack of better words. He's a douchebag. And the girl, she's living her life off somewhere else. She's no longer a noble lady. Her family has lost their nobility, and she grows up as a pauper, basically. And his whole life, he's craving to see this girl that he was in love with when he was a child. But this evil minister has been sabotaging his whole life, unbeknownst to him. And so, through some sort of, different occurrence of events, he loses his memory and gets amnesia. And he gets adopted into this family, this pauper family, and it happens to be the girl from his childhood. And so it just follows them and tracks this, and that's why it's called My Prince for 100 Days. Prince for 100 Days, right? Prince for 100 Days, My Prince. Sorry. It is so good. I don't know why... I guess you could compare the K-dramas to the telenovelas a little bit. You can compare it to sort of Nollywood even. You can compare it to the American soap operas. I don't know why American media can't follow some of the K-drama precedents that they set, because it's about love, it's about family, it's about tradition, and it's real. It's real. It's not like I've got to impress you every second with this CGI, this kind of half-bit CGI. It's not about the production. It's just about this human truth. And I just love that. But if you guys have seen it, let me know what you thought of it. I definitely give it like a 9 out of 10. It gets into some real stuff. It is funny. It'll make you cry. It'll make you laugh. It'll make you sense some human truths in your own life. It's just amazing. And if you are a woman and you ever just need that good show that you can watch, cuddle up with some chocolate and some tea and your little Kleenexes, definitely watch shows like all the ones mentioned before: King's Affection, My Sassy Girl, 100 Days, My Prince, Empress Key, Love in the Moonlight. All of that stuff is really, really good. We just talked a little bit about 100 Days, My Prince, the K-drama. I wanted to talk to you guys about how the Korean monarchy, I actually think, is more similar to ancient African monarchies, tribalism, than British monarchies and things like that. And this is something right here where I feel like the world needs to relearn. It needs to relearn its history, relearn itself. I told you guys when I studied art history in university, one of my white teachers told me candidly, this curriculum is gonna make you think that Africa is just Egypt, and there was nothing else going on in Africa before the Egyptians, before the pharaohs. But that is not true, right? And they're also going to try to lump Egypt with Europe, and that's not true. The Egyptians were African, and so I feel like people forget that Asians were African at one point, okay? It's just because of the ways that migrational patterns happened with our prehistoric ancestors, right? And so actually, when I look at some of my Korean shows, these K-dramas that we just recently talked about, 100 Days, My Prince, Empress Key, The King's Affection, Love in the Moonlight, Rookie Historian, when I look at these shows, and I know I'm not like an excellent, academician on these subjects or anything like this, but I'm learning world travels and stuff, like it really interests me. When I look at some of their practices, such as the way that they honor the dead, their sacrifices, when I look at altars and things like that, where they put up maybe imagery of lost loved ones, they put food there. Oftentimes you'll see in Asian homes where there are altars with oranges. There's a certain significance to that. The herbal medicines, these different roles. Something I find really interesting when you look at K-dramas is every village or courtier role has an outfit, and my husband, sometimes when I watch these shows, he's like, why do they always wear the same thing? And I'm like, that's because certain roles have certain costumes, customary costumes that they need to wear. And so the ministers wear certain things. The academicians, the historians wear a certain things. The chambermaids wear a certain things. The prince, the crown prince, and the actual other princes, the ones who are not the crown prince, they wear a certain thing. The crown princess wears a certain thing. So and even the lower classes, you can see the caste systems in these things as well. When you go and look at Nollywood films, for instance, I saw a Nollywood film recently called The Beautiful Village Dancer, I think it was called. And when you look at the tribalism of Africa that existed before colonialism, how basically there really weren't countries back then. That countries really were developed with colonialism. But if you look at how there were regions, and in these regions you had this like village, and in the village you would have basically like a village government, right? And you would often also have like a village king. There would be like a king of that village. You look at Goryeo, okay? If you look at Goryeo, which was before Joseon, which Goryeo I think is between the dates, and you guys correct me if I have any of you guys on my channel who know more about Korean history, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that Goryeo was essentially the Middle Ages, right? That's basically the European version of the Middle Ages. And then Joseon was essentially the European version of the Great Enlightenment, right? So, the predecessor to the Korean version of the Great Enlightenment would have been around the Middle Ages. And so at that time, you would have had these little these little satellite kings in each of their villages. And that's exactly how it was in Africa. If you look at the Ghana Empire, if you look at the Mali Empire, if you look at the Nigerians before colonialism, this is really how it went before that. You had these districts sort of governed by a body that was, limited to certain regions, and you would have like a king. And within that, you would have these different classes, these castes, but it just wasn't to the extent that the British monarchy had these kind of lepers. And often what you also see in ancient Hindu times, in ancient India, where you had these lepers, these castaways. You didn't really have that in Africa. Something I also find that you see in Korean, when I look at these K-dramas and you look at the Korean monarchies, you also see these, in African history, I think it's Swahili, you call them domas and jollies. I think it's Swahili, don't quote me on that. But these were the elders. If you look at some of these Nollywood films, you'll see them. They just are like speaking gibberish, and like, they consult with the gods. Same thing. You see the exact same thing in K-dramas. Now, I know in British history, for example, Princess Diana had her royal astrologer, for example. You might find that. But all of these, essentially just to say, all of these practices really come from Africa. And I know there's a lot of people who really don't want to hear that, but it's just the truth. You have to really relearn. The first boats that traveled across large bodies of land were in Africa. There's proof that shows that Africans were in South America. They were in Asia long before the Europeans ever arrived there. It's because we come from a common ancestor, and that common ancestor was born in Africa. It's just science, look it up. But something else that I noticed that I thought was really interesting in K-dramas and things like that is that you will have sort of like the village psychic or whatever. And I think that right there comes straight from Africa. Another thing is, this is a little bit off subject, but in the Aztec, in the Aztec tradition, where you see these ancient Aztec pyramids, why are you seeing pyramids? Something that was really, attached with Africa. Why are you seeing those in Latin America? It all comes back to Africa. So that was just something that I thought was really interesting. I think that the monarchies of Asia, of Africa are closer than you would think, and you can also relate these to other things in South America, even, for example, if you would think, or even for example, just a little bit of mystery, a little bit of educational intrigue. Why do Pacific Islanders kind of look like Koreans, kind of look like Chinese people? If you ever watched that show, Hawaii 5-0, you would see people on there who were actually, their ethnicity was Chinese, was Japanese, but they passed for native Hawaiians. So why is that? It's because we've been migrating for a very, very long time, but we all came out of Africa. But anyway, I would love to know what you guys think on that. Let me know in the comments. And again, if you're new here, hit that like, subscribe button, hit the bell so you know whenever I post video. Send me a super thanks, send me a super chat. Help push this video into the algorithm by subscribing, by commenting below, all the good stuff. So, Power Hour here. To wrap up, I'm going to talk to you about something funny with the legislature and Congress, and something, just inspiring. I'm really, really inspired by Jasmine Crockett, Justin Pearson, and Justin Jones. So Jasmine Crockett is a House of Representatives. She's a representative, and she is from Texas. So she called out this star witness that the Republicans had recently, which really turned out to be nothing. And we later found out that it was actually a Russian informant who basically started this whole thing with this stupid, silly Biden impeachment. And just like this, just like so many other things, Jasmine Crockett has been so on top of it and not afraid to call out asinine stupidity from today's GOP. And so I thought that was amazing. Justin Jones, I want to spotlight him for today. Recently, neo-Nazis marched in Nashville, Tennessee. Like somebody said, I think it was Roland Martin, they didn't go to Atlanta, Georgia for a reason. They didn't go to Atlanta, Georgia. They went to Nashville, Tennessee. And of course, their faces is covered and everything. They rolled up in a U-Haul van. Why the anonymity? So Justin Jones, he, along with a bunch of people, gathered and talked on this, said, hey, we're not going to accept hate in our city. And I'm so, so proud of this. Justin Pearson, you can see, he is a Tennessee state representative, and you can just see from this Twitter post, what he's doing. It says, after Tyree Nichols was murdered by Memphis police, his parents and our community committed to making more just laws. We did that, and now Republicans seek to overreach and stop local government from regulating local law enforcement resist. And you see here, he's standing up here for some legislature, some state legislation that he has fought for to get rid of some of those corruptions, disparities within law enforcement that cost lives. SB 2572 and HB 1931. And it says Tennessee Stand Up. Just by looking at this, being active on social media, active about these things that are hitting our communities, the things that matters. So I just wanted to spotlight Jasmine and the two Justins. Amazing. Really quickly, let's talk about Miss Marjorie Taylor Greene from my state of Georgia. Why? So anti-vaxxer, one who has been holding up progress. One of the major reasons why the U.S. has not given its fair share to the war in Ukraine. The one who has been doing Donald Trump's bidding, Marjorie Taylor Greene. As they call her, Marjorie Trader Greene. So she refuses to wear a mask because she's an anti-vaxxer. Guess who incurred $100,000 in fees for not wearing a mask? It was Marjorie Taylor Greene. She took it all the way up to the Supreme Court, and they dismissed the case altogether. They've got bigger stuff to worry about right now. I think, honestly, it seems like, what's his name? Justice Thomas. Maybe he might actually like Marjorie Taylor Greene. They got some people in common, don't they? But I feel like even they were like, listen, we got to figure out how we going to swing this thing. We got a real fine line to just tiptoe here. We scared of some extremists coming up after us. If we don't pass this thing with Donald Trump being on the ballot, right? We got a lot of stuff to talk about. So Marjorie, listen, we just can't deal with that right now. So they just dismissed the case altogether. And so more than a half of her salary is going to have to be paid in fines because she refused to wear a mask. And really, what does it hurt? Just seriously think about that for a moment. Not only is curbing the COVID-19 disease, the COVID-19 virus, doing a civic service, a civic duty for others to protect yourself and protect others, to create the environment safer. And what does it cost you? What does it cost you? Some people say that masks cause breathing problems. I've never noticed that. I've never observed that. It's just a piece of very light cloth in front of your nose and mouth. In Asian countries, they've been wearing masks to be considerate of those around them for a long time. But they couldn't have that. So just think about that for a moment. So I want to know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments. Last thing here is Kim Kardashian and Odell Beckham Jr. Are they official? Let's talk about this for a hot moment, then I'm going to hop off of here, guys. I just was wondering, do you guys think that they're official, or do you think that this is going to be another Pete Davidson type thing? Is Kanye West hanging out, stealthy somewhere like a sniper in the background, just waiting, to pounce, waiting to push Odell Beckham Jr. out of the scene? What do you guys think this is? Now, let me just say this. This is my thoughts. There are these rumors. I did pull up this article. They were at the Super Bowl together. There's this article from E.T., Rachel McBrady, Kim Kardashian and Odell Beckham Jr. attend the same Super Bowl party amid romance rumors. I did want to say, they were at the Super Bowl together. It was clear. But I'm not reading that this is the last. I'm not reading that this is the last love of her life. And I don't want to say that in a judgmental or snobby or even intrusive way, because I don't want to sit here and assume about people's lives. But I'm not getting the vibe that this is the one, or the one at least for now, or the one for some years, or the one for long term, because you can kind of sense it, right? You can kind of sense it. By the way, this guy was partying at a strip club right before. This is not to say that Kim Kardashian is perfect. She's a party girl. But still, he was partying at a strip club. It's just I don't know. But hey, I could picture Kanye partying at a strip club. I'm not sure. Let's just do this. Kim Kardashian's husband. What was the guy who she married for 2 seconds? Kris Humphries. Now, you can say a whole lot about Kris Humphries. I actually thought that there was real love there. I think that similar to Ben Affleck and J-Lo in the early 2000s, I think that there was a lot of public pressure, and I think that there was internal pressures that could have sabotaged that relationship. I think that J-Lo and Ben Affleck I think that they're soulmates. Twin flames something. I think that they have been intertwined spiritually, psychically, however you want to say, telepathically, for a long time. And I think that they have been in love for a long time. I think if they would have gotten married back in the early 2000s when they first got together, first got engaged or whatever though, I think they wouldn't have been mature enough for that love story, right? I kind of think it's the same thing with Kim Kardashian and Kris Humphries. I kind of think that they actually really, really were in love with each other. But I think that they it wasn't the right timing. You know, maybe if it was a alternate universe, alternate time, different time. But to go back, if you go back and look at those episodes of Keeping Up with the Kardashians, that was when Kim actually smiled. You know, that was when she was, I feel like, her most vulnerable. I feel like in those seasons when she was with Chris Humphries, I feel like that's honestly when we saw some of the most vulnerabilities. That and when she was with Kanye West. I feel like you saw light in her eyes when she was with Chris, when she was with Kanye. I feel like you saw her let her guard down when she was with Chris, when she was with Kanye. I feel like you saw her just sort of be in love and let go a little bit. I don't know. I feel like that's the best way that I can describe that. I don't see that with Odell Beckham Jr., you know. I saw a little bit of that with Pete Davidson, but I think that that was kind of being sabotaged by Kanye West being really up in his feelings. And I also think that Pete, he's dealing with some stuff on his own. So I feel like that was a breeding ground for some difficulties. But there is a spark. There's a spark. You see that spark ensuing at this very moment. Again, I don't want to speculate. We don't know everything that happens between two people. But at this very moment, you see that spark ensuing between Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. Right? I don't know if it's Kels or Kelsey. I've been saying both. I have no idea. Y'all let me know in the comments if you know. But you see that. You see it with Will and Jada. You see it with, I don't know. Think of any of those couples that you can really just tell. Even the couples in your life. Think of grandma and grandpa. You know, how they get all when they're around each other. And I don't see that with Kim Kardashian and Odell Beckham Jr. So if I were to call it, you know, ultimately, I'm one of the people who actually really like the Kardashians. I really want Kim to be happy. I really want her to find that person who is gonna let her let that persona down. When she's around them, she doesn't have to be Keeping Up with the Kardashians, Kim Kardashian, or the Kardashians, Kim Kardashian. She can just be Kimberly, right? Like, and I don't know that this is the person, but I would love to know what you guys think. We went through a whole lot today here, guys. If you've been with me all the way through, go ahead and hit me a little comment down there. Let me know what you're thinking. Go ahead and press the like, hit me a little like, give me a super chat. You can donate to this channel at paypal.me/realnajwa. You can also join me on patreon.com/itstherealnajwa. You can also join premium here. That's where we get to have one-on-one conversations. I would love to know what you think about all the stuff we chatted about today. And again, if you're new here, hit the like and subscribe button. Push this video out into the algorithm. It really, really helps us. Until next time, I will see you guys. It's the Real Najwa, little piece of dust. I will see you guys next time. Have a great one. Bye.